The raise hits your account on a Thursday. $340 more a month, after taxes, permanent, real. You feel it before you spend a cent of it. You feel lighter, wider, like a door opened somewhere in your chest. By the following Thursday, you don't feel it anymore. The money is still there. The feeling isn't. This is the story of where it goes every time, and why the feeling never comes back with it. Level 1, $35,000. You get your first real paycheck and the number after taxes is smaller than you expected. $2,180 a month, and somehow it still feels enormous, because the number before this was zero. You move into a studio apartment for $780 a month. The cheapest one that didn't have a mold problem the landlord tried to explain away. You eat the same 4 meals on rotation because you know their prices without checking. You buy a couch off a moving sale for $60 and consider it a genuinely good day. Your car is 11 years old and makes a sound over 50 miles an hour that you've decided not to investigate. None of this feels like deprivation. It feels like the correct size for your life, because it is the correct size for your life. You have $340 left over most months, and it goes into a savings account you check the way other people check the weather. A quick glance, nothing dramatic. The first rule, at $35,000, your lifestyle is smaller than your income by necessity. And that gap, small as it is the only wealth-building tool you have. Level 2, $55,000. The raise plus a job change lands you here inside of 14 months, and the upgrades start almost immediately, each one reasonable in isolation. A 1-bedroom instead of a studio, $1,150 instead of $780. A car that doesn't make the sound, financed at $310 a month because paying cash for a reliable one felt impossible, and paying $310 a month felt invisible. You start eating out twice a week, then 3 times, because you can afford it now, and affording it feels like the entire point of the raise. You do the math at the end of the year almost by accident, pulling up 12 months of statements you don't normally look at, and the gap between income and spending has not grown. It's actually shrunk. You made $20,000 more than last year, and you're saving less money than you were at $35,000. You stare at this fact for a long time without understanding it, because nothing you did felt reckless. Every single decision on its own was defensible. The second rule, at $55,000, the raise doesn't arrive in your bank account. It arrives in your expectations, and expectations spend faster than money does. Level 3, $80,000. You've been promoted twice. You have a title now that sounds like something, and the apartment has a second bedroom you call an office even though you use it 4 times a month. The car lease rolled into a nicer one, $460 a month, because the old payment felt manageable, and manageable felt like permission. You have a gym membership, a meal kit subscription, a streaming bundle with more services than you watch, and a habit of ordering coffee out instead of making it, which you've calculated costs you roughly $140 a month and have decided not to think about further. You take a vacation this year, a real one, $2,400 for a week, put partly on a card you pay off over 3 months instead of 1. You tell yourself this is what the money is for. You're not wrong exactly. You're just not asking the question underneath that sentence, which is what else the money could have been for instead. Your savings rate, the number you tracked religiously at $35,000, is a number you'd have to open 3 apps to even calculate now. You don't open the apps. The third rule, at $80,000, you stop tracking the gap between income and spending right around the moment the gap becomes worth tracking the most. Level 4, $120,000. Something shifts here that's different from the levels before it, because now the spending doesn't just match the income, it starts to require it. You bought a condo, a real mortgage, $2,700 a month including everything, calculated by a lender whose job was to say yes, not to ask whether yes was wise. You have a car payment of $610 now, a nicer model, because the trade-in value made the upgrade feel almost free, which it was not. You have a cleaning service every other week, $160 a visit, because your time feels too valuable to spend vacuuming. A sentence you say out loud now without noticing how it would have sounded to the version of you at $35,000. Your friends make similar money, and your social life has recalibrated around it without a single conversation about doing so. Dinners average $85 a person now. Nobody suggests splitting an Airbnb anymore. Everyone just books the nicer place. You run a projection one night, tired, half paying attention, and the number at the end surprises you. At your current savings rate, which is technically positive but barely, you'll have less saved by 50 than a disciplined saver making half your income would have by 40. The math doesn't care what your job title is. The fourth rule. At $120,000, your lifestyle has developed fixed costs that cannot flex downward without a genuinely painful conversation with yourself, and you have been avoiding that conversation for 11 months. Level 5. $180,000. You are, by almost every measure that matters to the people around you, doing extremely well. You bought a house this year, a real one with a yard, $4,100 a month between the mortgage and everything attached to owning a structure instead of renting one. 2 cars now, because your partner needs one too. Combined payments north of $1,100. Private school is on the table for next year, not because public school is bad, but because the parents in your circle have all quietly moved their kids and staying feels like falling behind in a race nobody announced the start of. You max your 401k because a financial planner told you to, and you took the advice the way you take most advice now, correctly, distractedly, without examining it closely. Everything else, the vacations, the renovations, the 2 new cars, expands to fill whatever room the max contribution left behind. You are saving more in absolute dollars than you ever have. You are also spending closer to the edge of your income than you were at $55,000, which is a sentence that shouldn't be true and is. The fifth rule. At $180,000, the lifestyle grows exactly as fast as the income does, so the feeling of security never actually arrives. It just relocates to a more expensive neighborhood. Level 6. $250,000. You've stopped comparing yourself to people making less than you. That comparison stopped being useful years ago and started comparing yourself to people making more, which is a much less finite and much more expensive game. A colleague at your level drives something you'd need 6 figures more to justify, and somehow you find yourself pricing it anyway. At 2 a.m. on a phone, telling yourself it's just curiosity. The house gets a renovation, $80,000 financed through a home equity line because paying cash for it would have felt like giving something up, and giving something up at this income has started to feel like a personal failure rather than a normal trade-off. You hire a landscaper, a house cleaner weekly instead of bi-weekly, a virtual assistant for things you used to just do. Each hire is individually rational, your time is worth more, the math genuinely supports it, and collectively, they add up to $2,200 a month in services that didn't exist in your life 5 years ago. Your accountant flags at tax time that your effective savings rate, once you account for the debt service on the renovation, has quietly gone negative for the 2nd quarter in a row. You are earning more than 95% of the country and living paycheck to paycheck in a house with a wine fridge. The 6th rule. At $250,000, the lifestyle stops being something you choose and starts being something you defend. And defending it costs more than choosing it ever did. Level 7. $400,000. The income feels abstract now, spread across a base salary and a bonus structure and equity that vests on a schedule you have to check a spreadsheet to remember. The house upgraded again, a bigger one in a better district, $7,800 a month all in, justified partly by the schools and partly by something you don't say out loud, which is that the old house started to feel like evidence you hadn't quite arrived. You belong to a club now, initiation fee $40,000, dues $1,100 a month, and you go 4 times a year, and every time you go, you tell yourself you should go more often to make the number make sense. Your kids' activities alone run $3,000 a month between the school, the coaches, the travel teams. You give to causes now, meaningfully, because it's expected in the circles you move through, and the giving is genuine, and also, if you're honest with the part of yourself that still runs the old spreadsheet from $35,000, partly performative, a cost of belonging disguised as generosity. You built a life that requires $400,000 a year to sustain, and the strange discovery waiting at this level is that requiring it feels almost identical to earning it. The 7th rule. At $400,000, you have not gotten ahead of your lifestyle. You have built a lifestyle exactly the size of your income, which means you are precisely as constrained as you were at $35,000. just constrained by a number with more zeros in it. Level 8, the audit. You are 44 years old. A health scare that turns out to be nothing sends you into a spiral of thinking about what nothing would have actually meant. And in the aftermath, you do something you haven't done in over a decade. You open every account, every statement, every recurring charge, and you build the spreadsheet you built at 23 with cereal going soft in a bowl beside the laptop. The number surprises you in the opposite direction from what you expected. Total household net worth, after the mortgage, the equity line, the car loans, the private school tuition paid out of cash flow instead of savings, is $890,000. It's not nothing. It is also, at your income level, dramatically less than it should be. Less than a household making a third of what you make would have if they'd simply let the gap between income and spending hold steady instead of closing every single time it widened. You do a harder thing after that. You cancel the club membership. You sell one of the cars. You have a conversation with your partner about the renovation debt that you'd both been quietly avoiding. And it goes badly for 20 minutes and then it goes well because you're finally talking about the actual number instead of the feeling underneath it. You don't downsize the house, not yet, but you stop upgrading anything for the first time in 11 years. And the strange thing is how little you miss the upgrading once it stops. The 8th rule, the lifestyle that expands to meet every raise, was never really about the things themselves. It was about a gap that felt uncomfortable every time it opened, and closing it felt like relief, when the whole time, the discomfort of that gap was the only thing that was ever going to make you rich. Somewhere right now, someone is opening their first real paycheck, $35,000 a year, studio apartment, couch from a moving sale. They feel lighter than they've ever felt holding a number. They don't know yet that the feeling isn't about the number. It's about the gap between the number and the life it's funding. And that gap is the only thing in this entire story that was ever actually worth protecting. Every raise from here will try to close it quietly, one reasonable decision at a time. And whether they let it close is the only question that will still matter 40 years from now, long after the number itself has stopped being interesting to anyone, including them.